this is the one where I can just say, you guys are going to be good this year. And I know I'm going to be right. I'm not going to fall on my face or look stupid. So that's kind of how this feels with Harbaugh, with that success, I believe, transferring. I just don't see a way in which he comes in and in 3 years we go, boy, that didn't work out, right?
Right. Heyo, welcome to Heed the Call, an NFL podcast. I'm Dan Hanzus, joined as always by the immortal. And trust me, he's tried. He's tried to test the limits of mortality. So far, indestructible, Marc Sessler.
Wait,
What's
so
up,
the
buddy?
news is I am here forever?
Now, we don't know if that's the case, but just within like the human life expectancy of what males in this country is about 78 or so at this point. You've done a lot to try to chop that down a little bit, but I feel like if anything, again, everything right now, this is a bit of a issue I have when I'm rewatching something that's forgotten in pop culture. For me, I'm living in it. So I'm rewatching Mad Men. I've been talking about this on the show somewhat regularly now for 3 weeks. So it's the only thing I could frame life through anymore. You're like Don Draper and all the damage he's doing, and yet here's Sessler at this point of his life. You're swimming laps at the New York Athletic Club. You're stepping out the front door afterwards. You're lighting a lung dart, and Satisfaction by the Stones is playing. Like you're still on top of your game, indestructible.
I tend to take it as a compliment, or at least half a compliment, or a version of a compliment. The indestructible nature.
Those are the ones I give up. Yeah, I give out those typically.
Well, you compare me to Don Draper, which has happened almost never on the show. I appreciate that. So.
Justin Graver, of course, on the ones and twos. We'll get to Justin and the Tennessee Titans. In fact, that's what this show is going to be all about. As you can imagine, we got Championship Sunday coming up, and we'll dive deep into that come Thursday with Connor Orr. But, yeah, Sean McDermott got, as we all know now, shortly after the divisional round playoff loss to the Broncos. 10 coaching changes with now multiple spots filled, but still a lot more that still need to be filled. I'm trying to think, Ceci, Justin, jump in on this as well. I know this is historic. There's never been more than 10, but I was also surprised to learn from you boys that this happened as recently as 2022. You might have to go back to the late 90s to find it again for 10 jobs to get reset. What does it all mean? Ceci, I'll start with you.
Well, I think this is when we look at turning points in conferences in the NFL in general, because there could have been 10 before a couple of years ago, but you struggle to even remember what they were. But this includes the Bills, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Dolphins, the Giants, like major bedrock foundations that it's what we think about with the upcoming season. These are three of those organizations are led by Titanic, like headline screaming quarterbacks. You just don't see this happen. So number aside, like the nature of these openings makes you forget that games were just a couple days ago and there's major games coming in a couple days from now, because this news is just, we're swimming in major league changes.
Yeah, I'll echo all of that and also say this was a crazy season. The playoff field included, or more specifically, didn't include a number of teams and quarterbacks that we're used to seeing. And it feels like some of these teams that were, multiple playoff teams looking for a head coach now, they seem to have taken that approach and continued the craziness where it's like, if we're not accomplishing our goal, which is to win a Super Bowl, then this guy might be a great head coach, but he's not an elite head coach. Or in Mike Tomlin's case, I want to take a break. I was talking more about the Bills there than anyone, but it is wild how these teams are, the impatience I feel like that we talk about continues to ramp up with quarterbacks, with the players all across the league. It's now reaching the coaching level. And that's not the best way to always build a team, but a lot of these teams, it does feel like we're ready to make a change, fresh start. It's like an era of the NFL sort of came to a close and a new one now is starting to open.
Yeah, it's risky business. I'll use an NBA parallel. I'm a big Knicks fan. the Knicks finally crawled out of the gutter of the league after spending the first 20 years of this millennium just sucking wind. And Tom Thibodeau takes over, and and Brunson arrives, and they start to build a core, and they get to the playoffs multiple years in a row. And then they decided after they got knocked out in the semis last year, we're going to get Thibodeau out of here. Great job, Tom, but we want to find a guy that could get us to the next level. Mike Brown takes over. The season starts great. They played really poorly the last month, and it's panic in the streets of Gotham right now. So there is that gamble, and I'll use the town analogy of the NFL. I talked about the Steelers being parked in that cul-de-sac of elite mediocrity. What we're seeing with some of these other places, like in Buffalo, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, is the attempt to renovate a property that otherwise is in good condition, that a lot of people would kill to live in that house, and yet the people in the house are sick of looking at the same drapes, and they don't like that there's that pillar separating the kitchen from the living room. They want to knock out that wall, and it's like they decided they couldn't look at their very nice house, their $3 million house anymore. And sometimes when you do that reno, things turn out great. Sometimes you end up ruining what you had. And with that said, let's get to the decision made by the Buffalo Bills, Sessy, because I wouldn't say we're shocked, because we're so used to it in this cycle that nothing shocks us, right? But the Bills decide to fire Sean McDermott after an 8th straight season in which, they get to the playoffs, they knock on the door and get turned away. And after this latest time in Denver, they decide it's McDermott that's the problem, or at least not the ultimate solution. So away he goes. Your thoughts on it?
It feels just a little Shakespearean to me that McDermott too came in as a culture setter to a lost Bills team. He was in charge of their first year's draft, and they had a good draft, and he showed he could do all that, but then kicks the door wide open for Brandon Beane to come in. And ultimately, you're hearing that there are people in the league saying this was a stab in the back, and like it kind of feels that way because Brandon Beane is then promoted. But overall, from like a bird's eye view, it's like, didn't this team just feel to be kind of underwater in pressure and anxiety this season to some degree? And there are whispers that McDermott was inside the building, had some concerns about the talent level, which rankled other people inside the building, and maybe there were some fissures there. But I think it's the tax playing in a conference with Patrick Mahomes. That affected, I think, the Ravens situation a little bit too, that you can't get over that Patrick Mahomes thing. And then secondly, these owners are watching someone like Ben Johnson in year one completely revitalize, change, and turn a team around. And are you going to be like the John Elway owner that says, look, I get that John Fox took us to the playoffs multiple years in a row, but I want to get Gary Kubiak in here to do it right. And I think that Knicks analogy is apt because these owners are very impatient, and they've got to find someone to douse the blame on. I mean, McDermott was 98-50 in the regular season. He's a good coach. He did a lot, but it just, to your point about the house and the renovation, it just felt like time was up.
Yeah.
You got to have something to bitch about.
Yeah, and certainly they do. There was a report out there from WGRZ that 5 weeks before Sunday's loss to the Broncos, McDermott met with GM Brandon Beane and owner Terry Pegula, and McDermott, quote, pointed out what the roster lacked to win a Super Bowl. And WGRZ reported that they were told that neither Beane nor Pegula was pleased with McDermott's assessment. And that's the thing that jumps out to me, and Mike Silver was ahead of this. Maybe he had a little birdie in his ear as well when he wrote that piece for The Athletic that I referenced on Sunday night, which was that the Bills have proven that something needs to change because this isn't working. And the roster deficiencies, which is not McDermott's, fault necessarily, is really what I thought led to the Bills falling short, that they had to put just Josh Allen in the Superman role week after week, January after January, and something always inevitably has gone wrong. So to not only fire the coach, but promote the GM to my new favorite title in football. I don't even know if it's new, but it's my favorite thing, president of football, and Brandon Beane. It's like, it does feel a little bit like a scapegoating of McDermott. And I just wonder if like the bigger problem is the guy that's been putting together the team around Allen. And now not only do you keep him in the building, another trend that we're seeing this year, firing the coach, keeping the team builder, you've elevated his level of power, and that could go in a very bad direction.
Yeah, and I think that there still is intense pressure around the next regime to take the best quarterback in football and win. Like the bar hasn't, there's no understanding or ease into this or honeymoon period.
I mean, you could argue that, that stress, that level of anxiety around this team played a role in what you saw from Josh Allen on Sunday and the mistakes that he made, this need to like, we got to do something. Like, I thought it was so telling, the decision he made, and not just Josh Allen, but Sean McDermott made, we're going to get points at the end of the first half, 15 seconds at your own 20 with no timeouts. And there's Josh Allen trying to, like Superman, rumble through the middle of the secondary, and the ball gets stripped, and it costs them 3 points in a game they lose in overtime by 3 points. Like, that type of mindset is just like, there just feels almost like a desperation around the Bills. So I can't kill the move because I too agree that something had to change. I just don't know if McDermott was the problem. And I don't know. Do you think McDermott gets... We're going to circle back with Mike Garafolo, who's joining us today, about the Bills' future. But do you think McDermott gets a job in the cycle?
I think he's a candidate to take a year and see what comes out of next year's openings. I would see that as a possibility, but I think he's a very attractive hire for the right type of team. I mean, I don't think this is a Sean McDermott problem. I think he knew, for him to take the mic after that loss and to go after the officiating and that interception specifically, it's almost as if he knew that something was coming here. And so how quickly do you jump back into a whole new job days from now? It depends where he's at mentally, because this has to have been an exhausting campaign for Sean McDermott.
98-50 he was since 2017. And people forget it now. Old heads won't. The Bills were a joke for till that point. They were a team that had, before the Jets took the scepter, the team that had the longest playoff drought, and now they're a staple in January. And yes, Josh Allen is the biggest piece of why that has happened, but McDermott maybe didn't get enough credit for what he did in that building. And I think he should be getting interviews and potentially a job this cycle, considering what do we got, Justin? 7 jobs open right now?
6 now.
6 now.
Down
All
to
right.
6.
All right, let's move. Like I said, we'll get back to the Bills with Mike G. The Falcons hosted Kevin Stefanski, the former Browns coach, for a visit on Saturday. Arthur Blank cooked him steaks. What an everyman that Blank is. Not only the owner you could count on to take that elevator down to field level for the end of each game, he'll also cook you a ribeye in a big spot. Anyway, Stefanski never made it to a second-round interview for Sunday with the Titans. They hire Kevin Stefanski, the Falcons do, as their new head coach, replacing Raheem Morris. Falcons retain Jeff Ulbrich as DC. Smart move. Falcons hire Bill Callahan as offensive line coach. Good move. He worked with Stefanski in Cleveland. And Sessy, you know that I have been very, very critical of the Falcons for almost everything they've done in the last 5 or 6 years. They're a team that tries to build their roster on quicksand. But I like everything about this hire and the staff that Stefanski has around him as they look to figure out how to maximize Michael Penix and a very talented roster. Yeah,
it seems like a pretty smooth transition. I do wonder if Stefanski, not that he would have wound up anywhere else, but is he one of the people that, takes the job, then watch the Bills job come open and just think 24 hours made a big difference after what I would have wanted here? But I think the Matt Ryan factor, speaking of John Elway, it's kind of like, we're going to find out over the next year if Matt Ryan can do this and do it really well and run this ship, and how well he works with Stefanski. A lot was made that they're both from Philadelphia. That feels a little fugazi to me, but that's okay. I think Kevin Stefanski. Well,
I mean, it's I guess a fact.
It's a fact, but that doesn't. A lot of
How
duos from Philadelphia
fugazi,
have stumbled. But the Bill Callahan thing. And if Bill Callahan, who I think could probably do this for another 20 years if he wants, like it seems to work wherever he goes outside of Tennessee. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Bill Callahan together, and that they've got a good offensive line. Like, I love that for a quick start for Stefanski, because that's what he had in Cleveland. It was a good offensive line, Nick Chubb and Bill Callahan. Like, these things tend to work, and that's how you win. I think you can win football games with those three factors right there. And so it allows Stefanski to run his offense, which I think he couldn't do with Deshaun Watson and struggled to do with a host of other backups outside of Joe Flacco.
I wonder if, and we'll get to Robert Saleh and the Titans, I wonder if Saleh would have had a laser lock on Ulbrich if his former DC with the Jets, had he not stuck around with the Falcons. But now that's not an option. I think it's a strong hire. I think Stefanski is a tough one because, and you're going to see a similar thing when we talk about Saleh, like so much of the struggles of the Browns in recent years was just chalked up to, well, the Browns are a joke. And obviously anybody that coaches there is not to blame. It's everything around them, which is partially to maybe a majority truth when you look at the bigger picture. But also, this is a guy that is offensive-minded coach and had to give up play calling, 2 years in a row? I know it was this year. And
you could point to his record as he's part of that record.
Right. So while he got a very, very much a clean bill of health coming out of Cleveland in terms of his reputation, he's also a coach who just came off failure, and the Falcons are banking on that changing, same as they did with Raheem Morris going from Tampa to Atlanta. That didn't work out, but I like the hire a lot, and I seeing Stefanski work with Michael Penix is going to be interesting, and I'm interested how Stefanski approaches this offseason with the front office about the quarterback position. Kirk Cousins will be out the door. What kind of backup quarterback or potentially even a replacement for Penix comes in? It's a different think tank with Matt Ryan there as well. Like, where does Penix stand when the dust clears? That's the thing to track here.
Yeah, they also have no first-round pick, which I think they can overcome, but that's not a great way to start it. The Rams got it of all teams. So.
That's true. All right, let's break right here. Come back. We dig into more of the head coach hires. Stay right there. Oh, sassy. Whenever I'm traveling with other people, I almost always book a stay at Airbnb because it just makes the whole trip better. Recently, I took a trip with the family. Instead of squeezing into a hotel or, asking relatives to put us up, we stayed in a home listed on Airbnb right in a local neighborhood. We had actual space, multiple bedrooms, a living room to hang out in, a full kitchen where we made breakfast together before heading out for our day. We also had the kids. But with Airbnb, the kids' bedtime doesn't have to be your bedtime.
And Dan, that's the big difference for me. When you book with Airbnb, you're not just sleeping somewhere, you're staying somewhere. You get more privacy, more room, and a place that feels lived in.
And Mark, don't forget the other plus of being in a neighborhood instead of a tourist zone. It makes the trip feel more authentic, like we were getting a real sense of the city. We even booked a guest favorite, which are the most loved homes on Airbnb, and marked with a badge for their top ratings. And it completely lived up to that status. Everyone could relax, spread out, and actually enjoy the trip.
Yeah, totally, Dan. So whether it's friends, family, or a group getaway, having a home-like place just makes everything easier and a lot more memorable.
Book your next stay with Airbnb. You know that feeling at the start of a new year? That fresh start energy where anything feels possible?
I do.
2026 is the perfect time to finally turn that idea you've been thinking about into a real business. We all have skills, passions, or concepts we keep circling in our heads, but it's taking that first step, that action that transforms a dream into your new future.
Yep, January is short. You don't want February to arrive with the same old story. The most powerful move you can make to make it all happen in 2026? Start your business with Shopify.
Shopify gives you everything you need to sell online and in person. Millions of entrepreneurs, from household names to first-time business owners, have already made the leap. You get all the tools to build your dream store with hundreds of beautiful templates you can customize to match your brand. Setup is fast with built-in AI tools to write product descriptions, headlines, and even help edit your product photos.
Yep, and marketing is built in too. You can create email and social campaigns to reach customers wherever they scroll. And as your business grows, Shopify grows with you. Handle more orders, expand to new markets, all from the same dashboard.
In 2026, stop waiting and start selling with Shopify. There it is. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/HTC. Go to shopify.com/HTC. That's shopify.com/HTC. Hear your first this new year with Shopify by your side. All right, we are back. Moving on in other head coach hiring news, the Miami Dolphins found their man. It is former Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley. The Dolphins interviewed Hafley twice. After the second one, they felt good enough to make the decision, and it becomes, this is interesting, Ceci. Hafley is the eighth consecutive head coach the Dolphins have hired that's a first-timer in the process. So that is obviously something to keep an eye on. They don't like getting the veterans. Nothing has worked in the last 20 years for the Dolphins, but maybe it works for Hafley. This is a match and a pairing between Hafley and John Eric Sullivan, the new Miami general manager. They had connection together in Green Bay, so you have some synergy there. The Dolphins, unlike many of the other teams in the league, are looking to align these two guys and go forth into a bold new future. We will see if it works. You like this one?
I like the pairing of the coach and GM who know each other, and there's a sense that they can work together. I mean, that's what a lot of the issues have been for the Dolphins and other struggling teams is right there. And so I think the Aikman process was positive. I don't know if it kind of threw me how much glowing praise Aikman was getting about how involved he was and how much of a hand
praise
he had
from
on
who?
this. People that were in meetings with him and just in general, that like Aikman was, it's not some celebrity quarterback coming in, that he was dug in.
Can I just counter that a little bit? Troy Aikman is a tremendously respected individual and a star. And I think people are taken by Troy Aikman, America's team QB. I'm not saying like he didn't do a good job here. I'm just saying he's one of those guys. His personality dictates people are always going to be kind of starstruck by him.
I get that.
That's all I'm saying. Like
I get that. I get that.
It was very unlikely there was going to come out of like, wow, what is Troy Aikman doing here? Like,
it's fair to
Troy
be cynical about
doing.
that and everything else, but like I'm just saying there was granular kind of. They were taking they probably expected a little less from him, I think, to be honest. And so I think Jeff Hafley's a good coach. And we saw that after years of Packers defensive coordinators not able to flip the switch on that defense. And minus Micah Parsons' injury, we don't know where that could have gone. Like, he did a good job over 2 years. I think this is one job, though, that stands out to me. And I think you agree that you very quickly inherit the problems that the last coaching staff had. It's the Tua part of it. You're in a division with the Patriots and Bills. Like, it just feels like there could be a bit of a failure to launch here. And I don't know if I look at Stephen Ross as a very patient owner. And so it's a bit of a tough assignment because there's a lot to navigate right away.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to dunk on the hire because you never know. I mean, this was a guy that he was the head coach at Boston College. That wasn't going well. He jumped ship there, goes to the Packers, established himself as a respected coordinator on the rise. Certainly got a huge lift by Micah Parsons joining that defense. Parsons exits the defense, and the defense stops being special. They get knocked out of the postseason. They end on a 5-game losing streak. And now he goes to Miami, where, great, no income tax. Great, you get to live on South Beach. I mean, look at the glow up that the last head coach had, just being in Miami. But to your point, you inherit the sins of that prior regime. You inherit the Tua Tagovailoa mess. You have Tyreek Hill coming off a grisly knee dislocation with ligament tears in his 30s on the books. These guys are going to massacre your salary cap. And you, as we know, they are in the division with Josh Allen and Drake May. And this is pointed out in a couple places, they have one of the toughest schedules in 2026. They have road games against Denver, San Francisco, Green Bay, Minnesota, home games against the Chiefs, Chargers, Bears, and Lions. And listen, we go through this every year. You don't know what the schedule is until you get into the season and see what those teams all look like. But this one is going to take patience from ownership because there's a very real chance this is a team that needs to kind of go down lower, sink lower before they build back up and have the flexibility both in the salary cap and in building out with young players. It might get worse before it gets better for the Dolphins. And can you trust ownership of Miami to see the plan through?
Yeah, I want to see where they are, after next year's draft and free agency. Like, I think that patience is required. First-time coach, first-time GM. Like, there's a lot going on there, learning on the job in the first campaign. And I think they're going to be forced to and make some very tough decisions.
And to that point, Tua and Hill represent $108 million of cap hit this upcoming season. They have to do something about those contracts. Tyreek Hill is very likely an option to be cut post June 1st. Cutting Tua will result in a $99 million dead cap hit. And then they could, if they do decide to go down that road, Tua wants out. He's spoken on that. You could split that up over 2 seasons, but it's still a massive hit. We've also seen, like with the Denver Broncos as an example,
teams are doing this.
You can navigate it,
yeah.
but you have to nail your drafts, and you have to have the right head coach, and you have to have a quarterback who can play. We don't have answers on any of that with the Dolphins. So a big old question mark in Miami, but Hafley gets that gig. Let's move to your team, Justin. Justin, jump in here. Not in the circle, Justin. You come in on the 3 box on this one because the Titans make it official. They are hiring Robert Saleh, the former Jets head coach and previously the San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator, to be their guy. It came down to Matt Nagy and Saleh, and Robert Saleh, which doesn't surprise me, impressed the Tennessee Titans brass in their interview process. So he becomes the new head coach of the Titans. Let's see what Justin has to say about this hire.
I think it's a good hire for Tennessee for where they are right now. Obviously, it comes with some risk. It is interesting that they didn't, I don't want to say they didn't prioritize the development of Cam Ward, but hiring someone who is going to need to nail the OC hire definitely gives you a little bit of pause. Albert Breer reported that Saleh showed to the Titans hiring group a detailed plan for Cam Ward in which Saleh demonstrated a real command of what Ward would need, including staffing on the offensive side with experienced candidates and a second phase plan should a coordinator leave. So thinking far down the road, I like everything I'm hearing as far as like setting a culture, being that leader and motivator that Brian Callahan absolutely was not, giving the Titans an identity, some sort of toughness and physicality. I think that's all exactly what Mike Borgonzi and company were looking for Tennessee. So I would say I'm optimistic on the hire. I'm well aware of the history of coaches who have a below 500 record in their first tenure, very rarely having a winning record in their second chance. It doesn't happen often. He needs to be an outlier, but I think when you look at the dysfunction that he experienced with Woody Johnson going after Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers sort of taking over a controlling role on that team, I think you could say this might be that outlier, but I don't know. It's definitely a risk.
Listen, go back and check the tapes of this podcast. By the last couple of years of Saleh's time with the Jets, I definitely had questions about whether he was fit for a head coaching gig. I'm surprised that I knew he was going to get a second chance. And the reason I knew he was going to get a second chance is that there are a few figures in the NFL who pass the look test better than Robert Saleh. He looks the part. He acts the part. He will crush the opening press conference. The Los Titanes Son Gigantescos podcast will be on fire. As
they just did an hour and 45-minute long show.
Wait till what happens after he steps off the podium in a week or two, because he is going to be a guy that's like, that's my head coach, because I was that guy once upon a time too.
You predicted him to win Coach of the Year once upon a time.
Sure, but I cannot. Why do you think I picked him to win Coach of the Year? I'm a Jets fan. It was Aaron Rodgers was there.
Yes, we were watching a lot of things.
Yeah,
just pure objective analysis, obviously.
Yeah, that was definitely not objective. That was the Jets are winning the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. There were a lot of special things in the air at that time. But I cannot, in good faith, roll with the prevailing media narrative here that Saleh's only failure in his first chance at head coach boils down to lol Jets. I just can't, because there were too many things that I saw from Saleh with the Jets that made me think, man, this is one of those classic guys that's like a defensive coordinator and not a head coach. He gets a second chance here. He was 20-36 with the Jets. He got absolutely railroaded by both fate, with the Rodgers Achilles tear, and then railroaded by the reality of having a 40-year-old quarterback coming off of an Achilles tear and an owner who expected much more than he was going to get. It wasn't fair for him to get fired the way he was. I think Rodgers got Saleh run out of the building prematurely, and the Jets cratered after Saleh left, which looked better for Saleh. But I also remember Saleh being a guy who really struggled with certain elements of being a head coach. He's terrible with clock management, very bad with discipline. This is always a highly penalized team. He was a head coach that really struggled to see both sides of the team. In fact, it wasn't until his third and final season with the Jets that he even attended like offensive coordinator and quarterbacks rooms meetings. He was one of those guys where it was always like, does this guy understand that he needs to oversee the entire operation? Can that change? Can that change now that he gets a second chance?
Yes.
Absolutely. It can change. But the thing, Sessy, that gets on my radar a little bit is Saleh is also one of those guys who knows how to play the game. He aced that interview because he brought that packet about, here's my plan, which he should do. Great job. He is being lauded as a great hire because he has so many insiders and other people in this business in his pocket, because he picks up the phone. He has good relationships. I just want everyone to know that it's not as simple as just the Jets screwed him, so now he's going to be great somewhere else. In fact, I would go the other way, which was if this is a podcast that has the Titans, the Jets, and the Browns as the favorite teams on it, I would have not wanted the retread from one of those teams becoming the new sense of hope around one of the other teams. And that's what we have here. This one's on my radar. I'm sorry, Justin.
Well, I'm not surprised it's on your radar for everything that you just discussed, but these coaches learn from these first experiences, and it was part Saleh and part the Jets. It's not one or the other, and I think the Jets are covered unfairly. I get all that, but Saleh to me seemed emotionally dead at the end of that job too, and I think he was just pounded into the dust. It's a surprising hire, Justin, because I thought of any of the openings before the Bills became available here and some of the Lamar stuff that everything needs to be about Cam Ward over his rookie contract. And I like that Saleh has a plan if the coordinator gets plucked, because if they do a great job with Cam Ward, if it's, let's say it's, Clay Kubiak, then Clay Kubiak's in the next hiring cycle, and Cam Ward becomes one of these guys with 3 coordinators in 4 years or 4 and 5. And that's destabilized. That's the cost of getting a defensive coordinator. I'm not surprised he got another job for what you mentioned, Dan. He's got a lot of media contacts that I think pump him up. He also has, there was an interesting article of Niners players, and it was offensive players describing how much he meant to that team in the 2 periods that he was with the Niners. And there will be a major void without him. Players go to war for him. Now, it might not have looked that way with the Jets, but it is absolutely true with the Niners. And the way they play defense and he got that job is the way he got it the first time with the Jets, was looking like a football coach on the sideline, but doing a good job as well. It's you want to hope that he grows, but the Cam Ward of it needs to be so preciously handled that is an X factor as big as anything in that division right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that is what the ceiling of how good or successful Saleh can be in his second chance is based on who the offensive coordinator is and whether or not he nails that hire. Because I think you can safely assume the defense is going to be pretty good and give them a fairly high floor. With the Niners, I mean, he's been like a top 5 to top 10 defense in just about every metric, yards or points, whichever you want to look at, since 2019 when he became the defensive coordinator of the Niners. He was top 3 or 4 or 5 in total defense with the Jets all 3 years. The interesting thing is it was reported, he intends to call plays on defense this time, which he did not do with the Jets. You also talked about how the offensive players on the Niners have spoken of him. George Kittle said our best signing this season was bringing back Robert Saleh, the energy he gives us, et cetera, et cetera. So you wonder, has he learned that he needs to be in those offensive meetings and overseeing the whole operation? And how's he going to balance that against now taking on defensive play calling duties that he didn't have in the first time he was a head coach? It's very interesting. I will just say,
yeah, I was just going to say, if we're talking about he needs to do a better job overseeing all phases of the operation, and then one of the first news nuggets is he's going to be calling the defense as opposed to deferring that to his DC. I'm a little apprehensive about that as well.
Well, he talked about, this is just with any job, he talked about feeling just removed from the world, the process, the environment by not calling plays on defense. So I think you're right. We never know how that's going to work out, but the way he stated it was like, I know what affected me and cost me emotion and time and stuff with the Jets. I mean, it was just lit. The thing went wrong. You hope it doesn't again.
The last thing I'll say on this, the thing that would send me over the moon about this hire, right now I'm like optimistic and totally recognize that this could go south quickly. The thing that would send me over the moon is if he can coax Mike McDaniel away from whatever other opportunities he has, because they have a great relationship, best friends, started together in Houston, went to San Francisco together, spent years together. If he can get Mike McDaniel to come coach this offense, I will be over the moon. All the concerns about Mike McDaniel are, can he be a head coach? Can he be that leader that inspires players with his nerdiness and stature and the way he speaks? You don't have to worry about that if he's not the head coach. I think it would be a home run, slam dunk. They can get him for OC. And maybe he does leave after a year. You know what? I'll worry about that in a year. I'll take a year of having a really fun offense to watch over an OC that doesn't want it, that you don't want to poach because he's not good enough. Like, no, I'll take the better OC.
That would be a coup.
And I don't want to skew too negative, Justin, because I get why he got the job. He's an impressive guy. It could work well. He could turn Jeffrey Simmons into the anchor of defense. That's a top 5 defense next year, potentially, if they hit on their draft picks and they bring in the right guys. Like, there is you don't have to squint too hard to see the Titans improving next year. I think Robert Saleh, absolutely, the Jets deserve every bit of criticism they got for how they screwed up that tenure. From he takes the job and they trade Sam Darnold to draft Zach Wilson, so you stuck Saleh with Wilson. Then you make a great move to bring Aaron Rodgers in, and then the football gods say no, 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 and then everything that goes wrong after that. So he's a guy that deserved a second shot. With the Titans, it made so much more sense to me for them to hire a guy like Mike McDaniel or Kevin Stefanski or this or that and bring in a Saleh type as the DC, and then you have the structure that you know is not going anywhere. And I wonder if part of the reason why Saleh was chosen was that's what the Titans were thinking too. They couldn't lock down that guy that they wanted to be the offensive leader and head coach of this team. So they pivoted to the next best thing, which is the guy that looks the part and has a history of success on the defensive side of the ball. And let's figure it out on the offensive side. It's a big gamble knowing that Cam Ward is the franchise. I hope it
talk
works.
to more coaching candidates than anyone in the league. So that's got to be good for them in general. I think their GM is strong. And I think we find out later who quietly said no to the Titans, the Browns.
Well, how many times did they have second interviews set up and they couldn't get the second interview in the door?
3 times.
Yeah.
First with John Harbaugh, second with Kevin Stefanski, and then also with Jeff Hafley. So they sort of said, and Matt Nagy, I mean, all the reports are that Mike Borgonzi was ready to hire Matt Nagy, his best friend from working together for 8 years in Kansas City with him. And then Robert Saleh came in the building and blew their socks off and changed Borgonzi's mind. So they were ready to go with the
that's what he's good at.
Fair enough.
That's what he's good at. Now he's got to do the rest.
If he can get the team to rally behind him the way he got the executives to do it, then maybe we'll be okay.
I know one person who loves this hire.
Oh, she's going to love it. She's got a big old boy coming by the pool this afternoon.
I've never heard of this Robbie Solomon, but he can coach my team any day.
Let's have him come on over, talk some OC candidates over one of my 3 pitchers of sangria that I learned to make from my mom.
We have made a bold decision about the Tennessee Titans. Welcome.
We feel very good about the 2022 season. Oh, wait, it's 2026? What happened?
Who told me that it's 2026? You're fired. Give me one of them cigarettes with the long plastic stem. I don't want that cigarette touching my lips directly.
Bring my horses over.
Bring on my horses right up to the pool. I like to look at them feed on the grass.
Justin finds this less entertaining by the second.
Don't forget,
These quietly never make the show.
we get this twice a year now, as if you're listening.
Oh, that's right. Robert Saleh threatened Liam Cohen's life. That's good. I will f***ing end your f***ing life. I like it. AFC South's my new favorite division.
Getting a little wild.
How about we hire Nathaniel Hackett as the OC?
No.
Okay.
Stop.
I was just throwing out options, relationships. I mean, yeah, just take a look at some of the people that cover this league, the way they carry the water for certain figures. You could tell who's a media friendly coach in this league just by this stuff sometimes.
Well, and it's almost exclusively tri-state area based journos.
Saleh was so. Here's just one last postscript on this, and again, I really hope it works out for you, Justin. I really do. But he was so media friendly that there's this insane Jets fan, Joe Beningo, who was the overnight guy at WFAN for years and then did the midday shift for like 10, 12 years. He recently retired. Now he has his own podcast or whatever. But Beningo was like a crazy guy who would just like speak. He would scream about the Jets and wore his fandom on his sleeve. And
How crazy.
Like you would expect a guy like Joe Beningo not to have a direct line to his coach, but he used to text with Robert Saleh to the point where he kind of banged Saleh in a big spot by one day on the show sharing elements of their text conversations. This is when Saleh was the head coach of the Jets. Saleh
got really paranoid after that, and that sort of helped spiral his tenure into failure.
Yeah.
I don't know if Joe Beningo is the first guy I share intimate thoughts with on text.
That's my point. He has a very cozy relationship with the media. And now he has to go toe to toe with your buddy out there, old crotchety.
Koharski.
Oh, Koharski out there. He's ready. You thought Liam Cohen was your biggest like opponent? It's going to be old Kadri Koharski going after you every Sunday on the
maybe
podium.
Justin too. I mean, you might have to start listening to Justin's pod and cozying up to the two Justins.
The two Justins have the poster of Saleh on the wall right now, and hopefully you have many posters at the end because he's a Super Bowl winning coach for the Titans. All right, let's see. Let's take a break, and then when we get back, we welcome Mike G.
You know, everyone's deploying AI agents these days. They're automating tasks, handling workflows, making decisions. Sounds amazing, right?
Yeah, but there's got to be a catch, right?
Well, sometimes AI agents mess up. They delete the wrong files, make changes you didn't authorize, or just go off script. And when that happens, you're stuck figuring out what went wrong and how to fix it.
We don't like that.
Nope, unless you're using Rubrik Agent Cloud. AI is here, but can you control the risk?
That's right, Mark. AI agents move fast, and now a single misstep can create 10 times the damage in a fraction of the time. That's why Rubrik Agent Cloud is a game changer. It's the only platform that lets you monitor, govern, and rewind AI agent actions so you can unleash more agents faster without the risk.
Rubrik Agent Cloud runs in the background, watching everything, enforcing guardrails, and if something goes wrong, you just roll it back. Like undo, but for AI, and we're talking minutes, not hours or days.
That's why hospitals, banks, and other sensitive industries are already using it because they can't afford mistakes. And honestly, using Rubrik Agent Cloud has made me way less nervous about letting AI agents actually do things. If your business relies on AI agents, you need the ability to monitor, govern, and rewind their actions.
Right now, Heed the Call listeners get exclusive early access to Rubrik Agent Cloud. Head to Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com, Rubrik.com.
When you bring a child into the world, your perspective changes overnight. Suddenly you're thinking years ahead, childcare, school, all those milestones you can't wait to see. Part of loving my family meant thinking about their future, even in the uncomfortable ways. That's why I purchased life insurance through Ethos. What stood out to me most was how fast and simple the process was, Ceci.
Yeah, Ethos makes getting life insurance 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in as little as 10 minutes, and even get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just have to answer a few health questions online. Coverage can go up to $3 million, and some policies are as low as $30 a month.
That's right, Mark. And it's not just me. Ethos is trusted by thousands of people with a 4.8 out of 5-star rating on Trustpilot from over 3,000 reviews. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named them the /1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider.
Yep, protect your family with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote in minutes at ethos.com/HTC. That's ETHOS.com/HTC, ethos.com/HTC.
Application times and rates may vary. All right, welcome back. Ceci, let's jump into the first official introductory press conference that we get of this cycle. It is the New York Giants, and yes, John Harbaugh. The move that always seemed like it made the most sense for both parties. They got it done after a little 11th hour power struggle behind the scenes, as we were led to believe. But now Harbaugh joins the Giants as a head coach, looking to clean up a mess that's gotten quite certainly untenable for Giants fans that don't expect to be at the bottom of the league as they've been for multiple years. Here was Harbaugh talking about this opportunity and the fresh start after a fantastic run in Baltimore.
It's a profound honor to be entrusted with the responsibility of coaching the New York Football Giants. And my dad told me that they were the New York Football Giants. They were just the Giants, they were the New York Football Giants, right, Dad?
Yeah, that's true. The New York Football Giants is a thing. Without further ado, it is a profound honor to welcome our old buddy, NFL Network's own Mike Garafolo, to the show. What's up, Mike? You were in the building when John Harbaugh became the new Pope of New York football.
That's how the Pope waves sometimes.
Well done.
Or it's the Queen or the King. I was in the building, yeah. So I guess a profound honor that you got me because Harbaugh declined. I guess I don't know. But I'm happy to be here. I always heed the call, so thank you, boys. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
I was there. It was I don't remember. Maybe it was, and I mean I've been to too many of these with the Giants in recent years, and it just felt like there were way more people there today, and former players that didn't play in the John Harbaugh, Stephen Baker, Howard Cross, who still works for the team a little bit. Tiki Barber was there. He was doing his FAN show. Sean O'Hara was there. Rich Seibert. I'm missing a few others. But guys, as I said to John Harbaugh when we talked to him for NFL Network, I said, does that show you what this hire here means to this organization? And certainly the Mara family, John Mara, it's been clear he's been battling cancer here. He did not talk. He did not take pictures today. And Chris Mara talked about, going through the process of hiring John Harbaugh and being one of because Chris isn't usually the driver on the bus on this kind of stuff, but he was this time around because, John's been dealing with his battle with cancer here. So it was a very poignant press conference, and I think it was a very important press conference, and I think it was. This is win the press conference season. I think it was important for them to win the press conference. It was important for Joe Schoen, the general manager, to win the press conference, and they did. Yeah,
I thought Harbaugh brought the Harbaugh flair that you want. He seemed new energy, refreshed, and I think it tamped down the concept of what had happened leading up to this with the power grid and how this all works and the Joe Schoen-ness of it all. But I think if you're a Giants fan, we're all surrounded by them. The idea that he wants to really affect the organization at the deepest levels, like staff size, analytics, like how they go about their business. This is called a Tiffany franchise and has been. And I think that in recent years, we look a little askew at that. But how far, compared to, say, the Ravens, what he's used to, how far away were and are the Giants in these critical areas that Harbaugh wants to completely transform?
He made a joke about all the analytics people. They have a big analytics department there with the Giants, which some people might scoff at and say, well, where's the impact of all the analytics in their win-loss record over the last couple of years? But they have invested a lot in that, and they've grown the size of that department significantly over the years. So I think probably a little bit more in some areas. But I know, this is what we talk about when it comes to structure and final say and who's reporting to who, that it's like, oh, there's a power struggle and the coach and the GM and he's got final say and all this stuff. There is more to it than that. That's a big part of it, obviously, but there is more to it. Like strength and conditioning. Usually that with the Giants would fall under the general manager. Well, now it's going to fall under John Harbaugh. Analytics, you talked about. All these other departments that we're talking about, the training staff, which Ronnie Barnes has been the trainer with the Giants for his entire life, it seems like, and the entire time that he has worked in this field. So, and I'm not saying he's getting pushed aside. It's just this is stuff that Harbaugh wanted to make sure, because there is some concern from the coaching world out there that you go in with the Giants and you don't have control, even if you're a guy that doesn't have the skins on the wall that Harbaugh had. So I think that was important for him to make sure that he had that kind of stuff. And you talk about his time with the Ravens. there were players that John Harbaugh wanted that he did get. There were players that John Harbaugh wanted that he didn't get. One of the ones that I heard, and I firmed this up over the last couple of days, if John Harbaugh had his way, Puka Nacua would be on the Baltimore Ravens. That's one of the guys that he badly wanted. Didn't work out.
Use him.
Didn't work. Yeah, well, it didn't work out. And by the same token, people have said, well, he wanted Ben Cleveland as well, right? Like, so you don't always want your coach to just get whoever he wants. There are scouts that are on the road, and there are general managers and personnel guys that do work in this department while the coach is coaching the team. But that being said, he had the right and I guess the hand here to play, and he did play it, and he made sure that he got his say in a lot of areas. So we'll see how it goes.
Having grown up in the heart of Giants country, it makes sense to me why there was so much pomp and circumstance this morning. This is, I feel like, for Giants fans and for the organization and everyone around the Giants, this is kind of a celebration, maybe premature, by the way, that we are out of the wilderness. Finally, we have someone we can turn to, an adult who can take the reins of this organization and bring it out of the gutter of the last several seasons. Really, post the second Patriots Super Bowl, it's been mostly a lot of dysfunction and losing. And okay, I can buy into that. Like, I understand. I think it was a great hire. I thought from the very beginning this made the most sense. They did a nice job of handling any potential issues leading into getting the contract signed. I guess my question, Mike, is, do you see John Harbaugh, like, as a Jets fan, when Parcells came to the Jets, it was like, all right, he's going to clean this up, and the Patriots before that, or what Belichick did, obviously, with New England, or what Andy Reid did with the Chiefs. Do you see Harbaugh as that type of like culture shifter? Because those guys obviously had offensive scheme or defensive scheme or a whole army of assistants that you knew they were going to bring with them. Can Harbaugh alone do this just by like the cult of personality?
Yeah, it's interesting because I heard him today during his press conference talk about how, defensive backs, I forget specifically, he said something about if we're in zone coverage, our eyes need to be right, or however he phrased it. And I was thinking to myself, like, that's not who people talk about with John Harbaugh as like a X's and O's detailed guy. Now, you've been a head coach in the NFL for 18 years. Of course, you know X's and O's to a certain degree, of course. But Tom Coughlin was like that. I mean, I liken it more to Coughlin. I do. Now, Coughlin didn't win a Super Bowl. He has incredible success in Jacksonville. Matter of fact, part of the problem in Jacksonville was he had too much say, right? So sometimes you got to be careful, again, about how much say you give your head coach. But that's what this feels like. And Coughlin was part of the reason why Harbaugh's there, helped facilitate both sides here, the relationship early on in the process. But that's what it feels like to me. A guy that's going to be a culture setter, like you talked about, a guy that's going to be a disciplinarian. I think he'll be, not like Coughlin was when he arrived with the Giants, which he needed some toning down, which he thankfully did before 2007 when they won the Super Bowl. So that's what it feels like to me. He's going to bring in assistants, and he's just going to establish a winning culture. When we have our inside training camp every single year, I sometimes the Ravens fans always, how do you think we're going to, every fan base, how do you think we're going to do this year? We're going to be good, right? And sometimes you can tell them like, yeah, you're going to be great. And the team goes 4-13, right? Like I've done that with the Giants. I think you guys are going to be good. And it just horrific. I always tell the people in Baltimore, this is the one where I can just say, you guys are going to be good this year. And I know I'm going to be right. I'm not going to fall on my face or look stupid. So that's kind of how this feels with Harbaugh, with that success, I believe, transferring. I just don't see a way in which he comes in 3 years we go, boy, that didn't work out, right? Like there's playoff appearances to come for the Giants here, which is great because we're 15 years, and I keep bringing this stat up, or 16 seasons, whatever it is, 16 years, 32 seasons, if I've got my math correct, between the Giants and the Jets playing football in MetLife Stadium, and we've had a total of one postseason game involving those teams in MetLife Stadium. The other one was the Super Bowl, which didn't involve. There's been as many playoff games with non-Giants and Jets playoff games than there has been Giants and Jets playoff games, and that needs to change.
Don't get me started on that stadium, Mike. I mean, you spent countless hours that turned into days weeks when you add it up over the last 15 years or whatever. What a dump. The big sardine can in the swamp. How about we take out that old Springsteen song about old Giant Stadium? Bring on your wrecking ball. Let's knock that bitch down and start over. Put the Jets on the west side where they should have been. The Giants, you could build on that parking lot once more, and maybe everything changes. It's just been the whole thing on that piece of shit building.
Personality free.
It's they wanted it to be a multi-purpose stadium, which is how we got the bowls of the 80s, right? The multi-purpose 70s and 80s. The riverfront stadiums, the veteran stadiums, Three Rivers, and they were all the same. And it's like the Giants and Jets wanted this to be a multi-purpose, multi-sport, multi-event center. And it was like, okay, well, this is the grayest thing we could possibly build right here. And that's what they did. So split them up, let them get their own stadiums. Both can have their flavor, just like everybody else in the NFL. I mean, as quickly as these things go, we're already, again, 15, 16 years into the building. You're going to start hearing that talk eventually, because it's like once you get into your 20s, it's like kids. Once they get into their 20s, it's time to move out. You got to get out of here.
Yeah, maybe that's the one thing Woody can do before he's finally out of my life forever is get that stadium built. I did see Oasis Live 25 reunion tour at MetLife Stadium, and I had a great time. It's the only good time I've ever had inside that heinous building. Let's move on. Listen, you like Oasis, Mike? You Oasis guy? What did you listen to? We're around the same age. What did you listen to growing up in?
I mean, all 90s
area.
alternative. I don't understand. I think it's almost because they did break up and there wasn't an extensive library. It's like when a rock musician dies at a young age, it's like they become legendary. The best thing for their career is to die, right? So for Oasis, almost like breaking up vaulted them into this legendary status, right? So I think that sort of helps.
That may not be the answer Dan was searching for but it's very honest.
Spot on. It's better to burn out than to fade away. I mean, their burnout was breaking up, and then we become old heads, and the nostalgia kicks in, and all of a sudden they're selling out 80,000 seat or stadiums across the world again. Anyway,
you called me. I don't know if it was off air or on air. You called me a journo. If you're going to call me a journo, I'm going to have to give you the truth. So I'm not going to.
You're a dog a journo. Who was your number one band growing up? Who's your
Strokes? I mean, that's not necessarily growing up. That was college age, so it wasn't. But I'm a Strokes guy. Which
Absolutely.
A couple years ago, someone said, "Hey, we've got free tickets to this night before it was Bose was throwing the event. We thought we were getting free earbuds. We didn't. So that was the real draw. But the Strokes were playing the event. So I tell Rappaport, meet me in the city. We're going to this event. It was the night before the opening.
We can't burn a ticket to the Strokes on Rap Sheet. He doesn't appreciate it.
I blew it. He didn't. And he was like, is this because he was going to take a video to post on his Instagram story. And he's like, is this a song that people would recognize? Like, yeah, this is it. And he's like, all right, cool. Ready to go. I'm like, okay. All right.
Not a great first date. Well, yes or no question. Are you a deadhead? Yes or no?
No.
I'm not surprised.
How about a little insult from the Sessie on the back?
No, I just think based on the other things that you've mentioned, it doesn't seem to be in that corridor.
I'm not a 20-minute jam at a concert.
Right.
Play your
Samesies,
song.
bro.
Yeah. So
Samesies.
That's where they lose me. But I Touch of Grey, Uncle John's Band. Like I know the catalog and I know the hits, but no.
All right. Let's get back on track here. So we mentioned Harbaugh. How about I talked about at the top of the show, Mike, that this coaching cycle is different because it's not just the dumpy houses like MetLife Stadium that need to be torn down. It's some of the houses in the nice neighborhoods. They're doing extensive renovations. So let's talk about some of these McMansions like the Baltimore Ravens. Anything you're hearing over there about how they're going to replace John Harbaugh? It's been a pretty slow process so far. No reported finalists out there.
Well, Joe Brady's coming back for an interview. Tom Pelissero reported that. I think Anthony Weaver as well, Jesse Minter. To me, it's always been Minter in my mind, just because it's like when you go, okay, the Ravens are going to fire John Harbaugh and move on to, and you put a face up, right? And you go, yes or no, right? Jesse Minter's been in the building. He understands the building. He's, like a young Harbaugh in a lot of ways, right? So it's like, okay, cool. Like that makes sense. You also need somebody that I think that can handle Lamar Jackson. That's going to be I know. So that's going to be a big part of this. He's been there. He understands that. I think from what I've heard out of his time with the Chargers, that he's done a good job of relating to players, and that's going to be a big part of it too as well. The offensive coordinator part of it's going to be enormous, obviously, who that's going to be. I don't know about Cliff Kingsbury, him being involved in the process early and a possible OC candidate there. You heard about the relationship with him and Kyler Murray down the stretch. Throw Lamar Jackson in there. How's that going to go? Because they can deny it all they want. John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson at the end, it was time. That was done. And John Harbaugh did a great job for a while of maintaining that relationship. And just at that point, it just couldn't happen anymore. So whoever gets it, and if it is Minter, I got to see how that gets handled. And I got to see how Lamar responds to him, because that's one of the biggest things there, obviously.
You said, someone who can handle Lamar. Does Lamar need to be handled? How much did you put into, and I don't know if you had any reporting around this, around the schism in Baltimore, and some questions about Lamar's preparation and how he handles certain aspects of being the franchise quarterback and taking care of his body and all those things. Like, is there any fire around that smoke? Yeah. And does that make this a more difficult job for whoever comes in? It's already a pretty tough job to come into.
It is, yeah. And I, John Harbaugh would never tell you this. Harbaugh, I think, wanted more out of Lamar Jackson at the end. That's my understanding. And Monken too as well, right? The offensive coordinator as well. They wanted more from him. And if you notice, that injury, or not that injury, his not
Which
practicing.
One?
Right. Well, hold on.
Yeah.
So every week he was not practicing, and it was like, well, this is going to be the pattern for him not practice on Wednesday. It was like knee, ankle, hamstring, back. It kept moving. The body part kept moving. And I know John Harbaugh said, media relations handles the injury report. I don't, he's involved in the injury report, obviously. Mm-hmm. So I think it was kind of like, well, he's not going to practice. Fine. Pick one part of his body that's hurting right now and put it down there. Which is not to say injury report shenanigans. I'm just saying, they wanted him to practice a little bit more, and they wanted him more involved. And they wanted him to you talked about caring for his body. I mean, we've heard about his diet is not great. Like, he's got to do a better job of doing the kind of things that doesn't have to be Tom Brady, but like doing the kind of things you need to do to be successful, because yeah, you're fast and yeah, you're quick as a young player, but the more you take hits and the older you get, that stuff doesn't go up. It only goes down. So he's got to make sure he's got to get on that. And who's the coach to make sure that he does that kind of stuff now? Let's
stay in the same AFC North. The Steelers. I mean, I just think that we're in unprecedented times. The Ravens and Steelers both have vacancies. There's some heat around Mike McCarthy with the Steelers. Like, what are you hearing, and what's the deal there?
Yeah, it's been Mike McCarthy or Brian Flores, which are two completely different guys. I mean, offensive, defensive, but also their approach and the way to do things. And the Steelers aren't shy about, okay, we'll hire a defensive coach. Obviously, they've made that clear. I don't think they prefer that. I would say, I coming into this process, I thought they'd be more interested in getting a younger guy, because the Steelers are patient. Well, they're patient when you win. All their coaches have won, right? That's got to be a big part of it, number one. But also, too, if you want a guy to be there for 18 years, you got to hire a younger guy. That's usually the way that it happens. So I think that in the end, we'll probably see more of that. So the McCarthy thing is interesting. There's a lot of ties there. I think Mike gets knocked way harder than he should. He did a really good job in Dallas. I mean, he won a lot of games in Dallas, which is not easy to do sometimes, to be the coach of the Cowboys. I say that all the time. So we'll see if they wind up going that route. Coming into it, everybody was emphasizing, everybody that I talked to with knowledge of how things work around the league, watch them skew more towards a younger guy here. So we'll see.
All right. And again, in the nice neighborhood where mom and dad just got sick at looking at their $3 million house, let's talk about the Bills here, because first of all, let's start here. When you release a statement as a team after your coach goes like 150 or whatever it was as a head coach and takes you to the playoff 8 years in a row, and you had a historically long playoff drought before your coach got there, and then the lead line of your statement was saying that he did a admirable job, and then you even have a typo and it says admirable. No, it was admiral.
Yeah.
I mean, can you botch it anymore? In fact, I take this as a sign that the Bills are going to blow this whole thing based on that single typo, and I hope whoever got fired for that lands on their feet.
Well, the person responsible for the typo is not going to make the hire, right? Like, you do know that part, right? So we can...
No, I don't, Mike. I just assume he's doing everything. It's like someone behind a curtain banging out the copy and then making the decision.
I can't throw stones because I had 2 typos yesterday, including Bix.
You can't make that one though. You can't make it, Mike. You can't have
BIKKS.
Admiral.
The Bix make it official, and I was like, I was reposting the post with the typo and had my own typo, so I feel like I got to kind of coach. I'm out on this one.
A little arson judge headed to the Giants moment for Mike G in a big spot.
Dorses, I saw that one a couple of days ago.
Anyway, the Bills, an inauspicious start to the process, but your thoughts on where they go from here?
Well, they have to conduct a full search, so they're going to have to bring in some guys where you go, well, that doesn't fit. I mean, everything from my understanding, Brandon Beane spoke to staff and I don't know if he spoke to players, but he had to speak to a lot of people in that building yesterday and told them this is not going to be a complete teardown or a shift. It's going to be more of a continuation of what we've established here and what we've done. And obviously when Josh Allen is the quarterback, you can say that and you can do that, and you're not going to change the offensive system greatly on him, which is why, like, this talk of Davis Webb, and Davis Webb might be the greatest head coach in waiting. I have no idea. But you don't know that as the Bills, and you're going to bring in a guy who's your quarterback's best friend. That's not a great. Just like me saying no coach should ever have personnel power and power over everything. Like, you need checks and balances. I just don't love that idea. It sounds great. Like, oh, it's bringing his best friend. Like, think about it for a second. So he'll probably be in the mix at some point. But if you've got a guy in-house that is going on second interviews with the Baltimore Ravens and Joe Brady and other teams, he's interviewing with the Arizona Cardinals today, Falcons and Raiders, I think were the other 2 for him. And you're going to go out and go get a guy who hasn't been a coordinator yet? Why? Why would you do that? So I think of people initially, Brian Daboll, Joe Brady, Webb was thrown in there. I don't know if it's going to wind up being Daboll, maybe as an offensive coordinator, depending on who the coach winds up being there. But I know Daboll's in the mix in Philly. Chargers, he's still in the mix in Tennessee. Do not discount the possibility he could be Robert Saleh's offensive coordinator, which would be hilarious to me because the 2 New York coaches will then have joined forces in Tennessee Titans.
Do you probably your phone for weeks and always eternally is just blowing up. You've got information. I've asked you things like this before. You've got information, deep coded, deep state stuff that none of us know, but we'll know in about 4 days or 40 hours. Like, do you generally, not asking to tap into that source world, but like, do you have any big prediction about what might surprise us in the next couple of weeks?
From the coaching standpoint?
Yeah.
Or in your personal life?
Yeah, but it could be personal. It could be coaching.
I mean, I was thinking players. You went right to like non-football stuff. What could surprise? I was thinking, like, is John Gruden going to pop up out of nowhere? Right? Is that going to happen? Could Mike Tomlin take a job? Is there a college coach that? I mean, now the Marcus Freeman one was interesting because that was, including the Giants, were not giving up on Marcus Freeman when he first decided he's going back to Notre Dame. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So I've kind of been going through that. Signetti seems like he's staying in college and wants to be at Indiana and wants to be in college, which I think is a perfect fit. Have a wonderful dance, you two. I've heard nothing to the Gruden end. It seems Tomlin wants to not coach this upcoming season. So could anything shock us? I think we've been shocked enough. I think the patient is dead.
Nearly a third of the league has turnover here. Bill Belichick won't even be in the conversation in any way, shape, or form. It got that bad for this man.
I haven't even thought about him until you just brought him up.
How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's not that crazy.
No, I mean, let's jump in the time machine. On himself, now, jump in the time machine 3 years ago, and then say 10 jobs come open, and he isn't even considered. His name doesn't even pop up.
Think about him. Yes,
that's crazy, man.
Even the Falcons, who talked to him a year ago, chose not to a year later. But he had a pretty wild year, Bill Belichick.
There's a lot going on there, and there's a lot that's coming with him. So all right, coming with him. It's staying put.
Mike G, 2 things. Please tell the people where they can find you, and tell me why The New Abnormal, the 2020 COVID release by The Strokes, is secretly the best rock album of the decade. Go ahead.
I can't make that. I mean, I can't.
It's a brilliant record that got completely forgotten about. Yeah.
First Impressions of Earth, big fan.
That's a sneaky good one. You Only Live Once, maybe their best song. on a forgotten third album.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember which song it was that Rappaport was like, is this one that people it wasn't like Last Night. Like that would have been, I would have smacked him in the face if he had asked at that point, right? So
Let's cut that.
That just gets me.
Video.
I mean, this guy Rappaport, that guy went he went to Columbia, right? This man was in New York City when the Strokes landed in the early 2000s. I'm gonna send a text with the three of us on it, and I'm gonna get on him a little bit about this because that's a bad job by him. All right, Mike. NFL Network's Mike Garafolo, The Insiders with Ian Rappaport, the Pellraiser,
where you can find me. Yes.
Yeah, all over NFL Network. Good Morning Football. They got you writing over there. How many different hats you wearing over there?
Ian, every Sunday during the season, like we'll have a little story or a nugget or a thing. Like I'm going to do this for my insider hit. He's like, great, write it. I'm like, I don't know. That guy doesn't work here anymore. No. I love writing. I do. I just don't have the time for it. Like,
they made that transition for us as well, and then they made another transition that led to us no longer being on the same payroll together. Mike G, we love you. We care for you. We do want elements of your personal life to leak into the coverage of the NFL, and we'll see you around down the road.
Heed the call.
Heed the call, buddy. Thank you. There he goes, Mike G. Great to see Mike.
I know he's sitting on something explosive, but I get that you can't say that.
You could see it. You could see it in his eyes.
It's great to look into his eyes. We haven't got to hang out with Mike G in a while.
He's got those Italian eyes. He's a paisan, and he's got secrets, and he's not sharing them all. It's Cosa Nostra, you know.
Alluring. Well, he's up. He's got to fend off the Pellraiser and Rap Sheet as well.
Can you
He
imagine?
can't be announcing.
Imagine
stuff.
doing a show with Rappaport and the Pellraiser and the battles going on. It's like the PTA film, one battle after another.
It is essentially the same thing.
And then you got the immortal, just like you, immortal Judy Batista, all class, and she's just above it all. While these three dudes are just like in a battle royale death match every day in the trenches of journalism.
Yeah, there's an integrity to her that just shines through.
There's a grace to a Batista.
Yeah. Well,
whereas you got just like these animals like clawing their eyes out in battle.
She was a scribe for the New York Times when people used to still read
the Gray
sports.
Lady.
Yeah.
Sassy.
Yes, she is. Not the person we're talking about, but the newspaper.
Right, the New York Times.
Yes. I bet a bunch of people don't know that. It's called
all
that.
The news that's fit to print.
I will tell you real quick, because this is where we stand right now, not to seem like an old, but like in our building here, we get the New York Times in print and like do the crossword and like love stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be like at Starbucks, right? And like I walked down Hollywood Boulevard to this like pretty wild Target that has a Starbucks in it, and like asked this kid like, hey, probably not during the weekday, but you guys have like Sunday New York Times? And he looked at me like he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, well, it's the New York Times, the paper. He's like, I've never heard of it. And I was like, all right, we good.
Justin, can we let's work on a new drop when Mark starts telling you stories about being out of time with modern society. I'll lay down the vocal and then we could put a bet under it. Old Man River, living down the mountain, drinking from the river. What you think about that? Old Man River, living... Something like that. It's the demo.
It's pretty good. I can use that.
That's my producer.
Is what you think about that an actual lyric in that?
Justin, can you look up the actual lyrics? Maybe it's like it's more like a sample. What do they call it? An interpolation? Take some lyrics, create some of our own.
Within the same show, you've called me like impregnable and immortal, and yet also you're crooning about the fact that I'm Old Man River.
I think it's the price of living forever. I mean, I think
and you're Don Draper.
Don't
forget, you're also Don Draper.
And Don Draper. I feel like the scales are pretty even overall.
No, it's a vibrant report.
All right.
Let's get out of here.
Other openings, by the way, in the coaching carousel. Las Vegas Raiders, Ejiro Evero, reportedly a finalist. Great. Some of these teams, I don't know. Very nervous with them. Speaking of which, Cleveland Browns, 5 reported finalists, Ceci. Jesse Minter, who sounds like he might go to Baltimore, according to Mike G.
Yeah, I don't think they're getting Jesse Minter.
Mike McDaniel, replacing Stefanski with McDaniel. I don't know, man. I know you probably want him, but I don't know. Nathan Shieldhouse, he's the Rams upstart offensive mind. Jim Schwartz, the in-house DC, and Todd Monken, most recently of the Ravens. Am I right in guessing that McDaniel is your guy there?
No, it's someone else who they were blown away with in a live interview. Grant Udinsky, from the Jaguars. He's 30 years old. I feel like this is a time in Cleveland where it's like I'm rolling the dice. McDaniel would be my second choice.
Right. And Stefanski your first.
Well, if we can get Kevin Stefanski back at this point, like, I'd do it. Why not?
What if they traded a first-round pick to get Stefanski back? I feel like that's a pretty good move. Also, the Cardinals, in our rundown, Justin has written, does anyone want this job? Is that to mean is that just a statement on the Cardinals, or has there just not been a lot of reporting around the gig, or both?
A little bit of both. The only finalist that had been reported for the Cardinals as of yesterday was Robert Saleh, who didn't get on the plane because the Titans offered him the job. They've interviewed 12 other guys, but I don't know. I think Cardinals fans are scared they're going to hire Vance Joseph. I don't. This is the one open job besides
the
Buffalo.
Cardinals, if they hire Vance Joseph.
We have no idea where they're leaning right now. That's the weird part about
they have they have some interest in Joe Brady too, I believe.
Quietly, potentially the most lost franchise in the league, and people just haven't totally caught up to it yet. The Arizona Cardinals, and the competition is fierce at the bottom of our league.
Most lost. Okay.
It's a take. I mean, if they hire Vance Joseph to replace Jonathan Gannon, like, you might as well just kick the can 3 years again.
I feel like they're a tricky spot to find the right coach because it's the same as the Dolphins. You got a quarterback issue.
Yeah, but it's not financially. It's not the same bloodbath as Tua.
It's not.
But you do need to turn the page. It feels like with Kyler Murray there.
You do, but there is some talent in Arizona. I know. I feel like I'm always saying that, but it's not the worst roster situation,
right,
that I'm looking at.
The problems with the Cardinals that I've seen are from the neck up and the nerve center, the brain operation, ownership, team builders. And that's always the biggest issue a team can have. The Buffalo Bills, we talked about that with Mike. Keep an eye on whether Dable could be back as the head coach. That would be pretty wild. Joe Brady, could he get promoted? Do they go in a completely new direction? We'll see. That is probably the best job left on the market. Fair to say. Well, unless the Ravens, you could absolutely make the case for Baltimore. Sometimes it's like, who has the best stability with the front office plus a quarterback? Baltimore has that absolutely with their structure up top, and then the quarterback. Although I thought it was illuminating that Mike G backed that up, and Mike G's a great reporter that's dug in. You don't have to look too closely and read between the lines on that Lamar is a guy that maybe doesn't get it, and he needs to get it, or this is always going to be the problem around the Ravens.
That's a tough assignment out of the gate for anyone. That's going to be, I cannot wait to see who they believe can handle that from an umbrella top-down scenario. And maybe we'll do a little OC/head coach updates with Connor as a halftime on Thursday. I know Drew Petzing landed in Detroit to replace John Morton. We'll kind of dig into those things with Connor because Connor is, in our business, one of the more plugged-in people on the assistant coach coordinator side of things and where they are in the pecking order of the league. So there you go. Yeah, I feel good about that Old Man River song. I feel like it could be a hit. And Justin, just like circling back, it's a very emotionally fraught setup. So I don't want to come off as too critical of the Titans hire. I hope you're right. I hope they get the right play caller, and I hope Rob learns from his failures in New York that were not all his own, but what's being overlooked because of a lot of the flowery reporting around Robert Saleh
is that he did play a hand in his demise there as well. That's been swept under the rug there. That was all I'm saying. But I hope he's a huge hit for you, and I hope the Titans are in the AFC playoffs a year from now.
Let's go be the Bears or the Patriots from this season. Why not? Mike Silver did put out a super flowery puff
Are we
piece.
back in? Are we analyzing the Titans again? What are we?
No,
what,
I was just
like,
going to say
honest,
he did
what's
put out a
happening?
super flowery
Yeah, this felt
puff
unnecessary,
piece
but go ahead.
over
Super flowery
about,
puff piece.
about why Saleh is going to succeed in his second
Wait, do you
chance.
mean
So let's,
Mike Silver, the Bay Area dug-in columnist, referring to Robert Saleh, the star defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers? He wrote a positive piece?
Oh, not just positive. Glowing.
You see what
So,
we're talking about here. And
I'm
love
being-
Silver.
I'm being
think
facetious
Silver is
myself.
a tremendous reporter and writer. But of course, Silver and Saleh are tight. They
Yeah, I
probably
don't
went
think
to
you-
Warriors games together with Adam Duritz of the Counting Crows. Like, I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think you caught the facetiousness in my tone there, but yes.
Well, maybe not everyone caught it. And I just want to underline that it's good to have connections in this business, in any business. Mark, you're a bit of a renegade. You seek zero connections, but you walk
I don't
alone.
know. The utter hyperbole with which you speak of my career and my personhood is like a kind of a wild part and parcel of the show. I've made probably 200 friends. I don't need to gossip though. I'm not into industry gossip the way that I believe would help me if I were on like 80 text threads with various people gossiping about others. Like, it's not a look at me. It's just like, I got enough other items to handle right now.
Hit him with the national anthem, Justin, because this is this is a guy that
I don't think it's good for women either. Let's throw that up.
Go
there.
ahead,
I
keep
don't think
going.
it's-
Close it
yeah,
out.
it's not good for
Close out the
children,
show.
women.
Children. What, gossip?
Yeah, I don't think it's good
Just feels
for
like
them
you're throwing
to
a
be.
bunch of buzzwords together now.
Yeah, I am. I am
Yeah.
essentially doing exactly that.
Okay. I think even the publishers of Women Weekly is going to see through that one. That didn't seem to have any thread that connected it. But you're still a great American.
It's all connected, and I connected it in a way that I think will feel prescient by the time people are listening to this.
All right. We'll see you Thursday. Until next time, do what you must. Heed the call.